really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to a bonus episode of the Rosbiff Rugby podcast. I'm joined by Rob down the line in his Brive kit. Rob, why are you in your Brive kit?
Because we have a Brive player on for a special interview. We tried to sneak them into the podcast, the regular podcast, I guess, and logistics got in the way. So we are back with a bonus. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, we are here for a bonus video, but a special interview with a guy playing for Brive, but soon about to leave Brive, unfortunately, because he's been one of the highlights of Pro Day Tour, one of the top players that's brought a bit of stardust to the league, I'd say.
Yes. Enjoy our chat with Curwin Bosch. All right, we are delighted ahead of the Pro Day Tour playoffs to be joined by someone who's been key to Brive over the last couple of seasons, formerly of the Sharks and South Africa. A massive welcome to Rosbiff Rugby podcast to Curwin Bosch. How are you doing? Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys. Been great. It's been an interesting year for us here at Brive. Obviously didn't start the season off so well, but we found ourselves now in a playoff game this weekend, so we're just looking forward to that opportunity.
Just I know it's a few days ago now, but just to briefly touch on it, you guys were involved in a bit of a mad game last Friday. Your one at, I guess your last one at Amadei Domenech. Talk us through it. You were pretty heavily involved at the end as well.
Yeah, it was we were speaking after the game to some of the boys, and I said it's probably one of the worst games that we've played, but it was one of the best wins we've had. Not even sure if that makes sense, but it was exactly like you described. It was a crazy game. We were 22-0 down at some stage, I think. It was. A lot of the guys that played haven't played for a while. I mean, myself, it was my first start at 10 for the season, I think. Oh, wow. It was a good game, and it was very nice of the club as well for a lot of the boys that are leaving. It was their last opportunity to play in front of the home crowd. So it was a really, really nice send off, and for the game to end the way it did, it was really special. So I really enjoyed that.
Very nice. Yeah, saw a little kick to win it in overtime. Little in off the post, was it?
Yeah. It was actually we laugh about it now because we watched the video. So I usually ask the guy who brings my tee on to tell me when there's 10 seconds left on the clock. And when I put the ball down on the tee, he said 30 seconds. So I thought I've got more than enough time. And then he says he did say 10 seconds, but I never heard the 10 seconds. And I was still standing, obviously, in my run-up, and he said 3 seconds. So then I sort of rushed and just wanted to kick the ball because I thought I had more time than I did. But yeah, luckily got a bit of help from the post, so all good now.
Brilliant. And looking ahead then, so you guys have got the trip down to Provence on Saturday, I think the game is, isn't it?
Yeah, Saturday, 6:30 p.m. kickoff, yeah.
Fantastic. How's the squad been? How's it feeling? It's obviously a slightly different playoff situation to what you found yourselves in last year. How's things shaping up?
Yeah, I think prep's been really good this week. The coaches have tried to keep things pretty similar to previous weeks. Even though obviously we are aware that it's a game that's got a lot more on the line, but I think within our squad we've got enough players that have played at a level where we know how important these sort of games are. The training's been going well, and obviously looking at Provence, they're a quality side as well. So I think whichever team goes on to win on Saturday, it's going to be a team that deserves it. I think it's going to be a really, really good game. It's going to be an exciting game, and I think it's really going to come down to the wire. We even prepped yesterday at the end of the session for goal kicks if it does come to a draw after extra time. So we're preparing for all sorts of things, but these are the type of games that you do preseason for. It's the type of games that you do the extra work for. So it's really exciting, and I can't wait for it.
With Provence, do you obviously you've got the magnitude of the game and the importance. Do you prepare for the way they play? Obviously not without, giving away any of your secrets ahead of the weekend, or is there anything that you're expecting from them in particular, or is it very much focused on you getting your drills right and playing the Brive way?
Yeah, I think in playoff games, it's a little bit of both. I think you would be silly not to have a look at trends and stats for that matter. Although stats sometimes can be skewed, they do tell a story. Yeah, we've obviously had a look at some of the things that they do, and then looking at our strength as to where we can attack them, and that sort of thing. Um, and I think that's also why I'm so excited, is because it is two very similar teams. We've obviously got a big pack of forwards, and which is probably where our strength lies. So we pride ourselves, in the set pieces and that sort of thing. So um, yeah, it's gonna be a really really nice battle. Provence, obviously, like I said, they're a quality side, and they've got some quality individuals in their backs. They've got a lot of X factor in there. So for us, it's more about our defense, how we can contain those individuals, and then impose ourselves on them when we do have the ball.
You guys, in terms of your game plan and what you're trying to do with like coming up against Provence, you had a kind of, you mentioned it was a little bit of a sticky start to the season, and you guys took a bit of time to get going, but you've kind of hit some real form in the second half of the season. Like what's changed and what's clicked, and how is the team kind of building into it, and what is the team doing really well that are like your super strengths as a side?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think obviously the start of the season we had David as our head coach, and he was very much ball in hand focused. And I think with that sort of style, if you want to play that sort of style, you do require a bit of time. So I do sympathize with him, and it was tough because I don't think he was given a fair shot in that sense, because of the way he wanted to play. He did need a bit of time. So when Pierre came in, he sort of simplified things again, if I can put it like that, where it's more, we focus on our set pieces to make sure that functions. And, if all else fails, we know we can target teams there. And then, of course, our kicking game is a big part of it as well. I think in this league, if you've got a strong kicking game, you will always get opportunities to score points, and you got to play in the right areas of the field as well. So when Pierre came in, and sort of when things started turning for us, was when firstly our discipline improved, and then we started winning the territory battle, which is really important. If you spend enough time in opposition half, you're bound to come away with points.
On yeah, that change in the coach stuff, because there's a little bit of kind of wider overhaul as well. You mentioned the styles of coaching and maybe the focuses, but how difficult, easy, otherwise is it as a player when you have that significant a change, and maybe you focus on the fundamentals more, and maybe that's what's worked better under Bronkamp, but that must be difficult mid-season to have a big change of approach.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. It is really tough, and I think viewers, spectators, and people out there underestimate that a little bit, because the Pro D2 is obviously, it's a long season as well, which helps in that sense. So you have time to adjust, and you have time to sort of adapt to new ways of playing and that sort of thing. But it is very difficult on players, because you go through a whole preseason of preparing to play a certain way, and you're working on different skill sets, and um, your position specific skills never change. Obviously, they stay the same, but you do tend to adjust your game a little bit more. So, for instance, in the second half of the season, when Pierre started taking over, it was we did a lot more high ball skills, which is something back three and 10 should be doing anyways, but there was a lot more focus on that because of the way he wanted us to play. Whereas with David, our training sessions consisted more of ball in hand, broken play. Starting to you when you do that sort of thing with attacking play, you get to know players better. You get to know what they do in certain situations and that sort of thing. So it is tough, and I think especially for in my position 10s 15s where you're involved a lot more and that sort of thing, it's more harder on the game drivers, so definitely easier.
You're dead right about it being a long season and that actually giving you a bit of time to bed in. I think you guys were like ninth or something at Christmas, and I was like, nah, they're done. They're never going to make the playoffs. And like, now you kind of come into the playoffs in some pretty good form.
Yeah.
Like, have you guys reflected on last year's playoffs at all? Because it was a pretty big shock for you guys to lose the home game to Montauban, and I don't know, it was the mention of increased aerial skills, kind of an aerial training, kind of made me think back to that, because obviously the boss man Bosville had a bit of a stormer on that day. Like, have you guys reflected on that? Or is that just gone? Like, it felt like you guys had a little bit of a hangover from that, in the same way that Grenoble also had a bit of a hangover from the finals and the playoffs. Like, how has that impacted this season and the playoffs now?
Yeah, look, to be honest, we haven't spoken about it formally in meetings and things, but obviously those of us who did play in that semi-final, like I made mention actually this morning to Jamie about the balls that we play with in the playoffs here in France, the B-Rugby ball. And I said to him, any contestable that's a spiral or anyhow just spirals a little bit, it is a nightmare to catch for a 15. The balls are a prop would probably listen to this now and think, what the hell is this guy speaking about? But those balls are very, very, very different, especially when it comes to the kicking game. And if you use it right, like Bosfield did in that semi-final, you can get some big rewards for it. So to answer your question, no, we haven't made mention of it actually ever since that semi-final. We've never ever spoken about that. The fans just reminded us every now and again at the start of the season about it. But it's definitely something that I can go and speak to Stuart or Jamie about, and to the Nines about, in terms of the kicking and that sort of thing. So we better off for it. As crazy as it sounds, I mean, I learned a lot in that game. So yeah.
Yeah, I was at that game. Did a little last minute trip, and it was it was memorable in ways that have probably
Yeah.
been pretty tough since. The
Yeah.
place was rocking. It's such an amazing place to watch rugby, and I imagine play as well. But obviously not. Yeah, didn't quite go your way on that occasion. Just to bring it sort of up to the last few weeks, and maybe away from the playoffs a little bit. Last week, the week before, you've announced some pretty big news. Congrats, you're heading back to the South Africa with the Bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when does that sort of when do you head over?
Well, so as soon as we are done, I'll be heading over. Like I said, I've got the wedding to prepare for. Yeah, and look, I'm really excited about this opportunity. I've obviously loved my time here in France. Really, really enjoyed it, and I'm very, very grateful for the experience that I got here. And I think in the back of my mind, even though I didn't say it out loud, I was always going to go back to South Africa. I think these 2 years in France. Before that, I'd been at the Sharks for 8 years. So South African rugby was the only thing I knew. And because I started so young, pressure was all I knew as well. So it just started to weigh on me a little bit. And I think these 2 seasons in France has done me great. So I'm really, really excited for this next chapter. And I'm really excited that what Johan Ackerman's doing at the Bulls. They're playing a good brand of rugby. I saw a stat the other day as well that they're a team that scored the most tries in the URC. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, it's really exciting for me, and yeah, I'm very grateful for that opportunity.
You mentioned the pressure there. It's interesting because I'm intrigued to know kind of what you mean by I guess, different types of pressure, because being in that one environment for so long within South African rugby, I know obviously you made your Springbok debut pretty young as well, right? Like, and I assume that all feeds into it.
Yeah,
We speak to some guys who go over to France for the first time, and the pressure is massive, but it's more the guy on your shoulder in the local bakery. It's the fans
yeah.
getting stuck in because of the history of, well, a Brive, no more so than somewhere like Brive. So how is yeah, I guess, how's your experience in France maybe changed that view slightly?
Yeah, I think it's the pressure will always be there, especially in my position. The pressure is always there. If a team's not winning, you look to the 10. So that part of it, the pressure itself will always be there. I think for me, it was just exactly what you had mentioned. I came onto the scene as a youngster. I didn't play any junior rugby. The only junior rugby I played from out of school was the Junior World Cup 2 years. And I mean, my first year went to the Junior World Cup. My first week back, I made my Super Rugby debut, so I was straight into the big leagues. The second year, so I played Super Rugby for that first year, my first year out of school. The second year, same thing, went to the Junior World Cup. A week later, a week from coming back from the Junior World Cup, I made my Springbok debut. So, and I think I was just getting caught up so much in exactly what I was saying now, is that if a team is not winning, you look to the 10, and I would look at myself and say, well, why aren't we winning? Why am I not doing it? It's because of me. And, it's more the pressure that I was putting on myself, if the team wasn't doing well. So, this was just really good for me to sort of just step back and say, okay, well, there are 14 other players on the field. You don't have to take it all on yourself to try and make something happen or to try and get the team to win. So I think it was literally just that. Sorry, I was just receiving a call here. Yeah, it was just that. The pressure itself, it'll always be there, but I think I've got the tools now, and the maturity now to know that you know you can't do it all on your own. You need to rely on the other players around you. So I think that's what France has been really, really good about.
On the the tools and going back, maybe a slightly more rounded player. It's interesting because when we first started doing the podcast, it was at a point where a load of guys from England had gone over to France for the first time, and or recently into Pro D2. We're now seeing, and I think slightly cynically, a lot of that was, whether that's financial based, it's different rugby, different experiences. But we're now seeing a lot of these guys now going back to the Premiership, going back to the URC, having played in the second tier, which I assume is quite a testament to the quality of rugby. Is Pro D2 strong enough to sustain that kind of, to as a breeding ground for players or an improvement ground for players going back into these like supposed tier one competitions? Because Courtney's obviously going back to the Premiership, Mako Vunipola, Thomas Francis, back to Sale Sharks as well. So just from a playing standpoint and a quality standpoint, how have you found it?
Yeah, once again, that's a very good question because I speak back to some of the boys back home, and you try and explain how tough the Pro D2 actually is, and it really is. It's hard, and I think it comes down to a couple of things. It's obviously, like we mentioned earlier, it's a longer season. Um, and what I've realized in the Pro D2 as well, you get some of these island boys that they tackle for their lives. The physicality in this league is quite up there. It's very, very demanding on the body, and then you take into consideration the amount of games that you need to play. So in that sense, it's definitely. Look, I think the quality of, I wouldn't know. I've never played in the Prem, but I can certainly speak about the URC. The quality and the skill of individual players is definitely a little bit higher. But taking nothing away from the Pro D2, again, like I said, you get Provence this weekend. They're a quality side. It really is. There's probably a couple of weeks out of the season where you perhaps going to play against a team that's rebuilding, or that's that are changing things, and they'll struggle a little bit. So, but I mean, we've learned Montauban Sun. We went there expecting to get 5 points. I mean, they second last, I think, on the log, and I mean, we got 40 points. So I think the inconsistencies in the Pro D2 of teams is the biggest difference. You can rock up, play a team and give them 50 points, or you can rock up and take 50 points. It all depends on the day, if those boys are turning up or not. So I think that for me, that's the biggest difference. It's just in the URC with the quality of players. And the teams, it's a lot more consistent than the teams are, yeah.
Yeah, although what I am taking from that is that Pro D2 is more physical than South African rugby, so we'll clip that one up and use that as some good clickbait for TikTok.
Yeah. No, look, it's up there. It's definitely up there. Look, the South African derbies are obviously a lot more personal in South Africa, but some of these boys get hold of you, you feel it for a couple of minutes after.
I think that kind of moves us on nicely to one thing we wanted to ask you about generally. Obviously, you're going back to South Africa, and there's been rumours in the paper that perhaps if you're going back to South Africa next year, or when you are, you might not be playing European rugby, or the South African sides might look to exit the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup. You won the Challenge Cup as a player with the Sharks. So
Yes.
kind of we wanted to know, like, what's your view on South African sides in the European, as they were, competitions, and what is it actually like? We hear so much noise from fans and pundits and journalists about the rights and wrongs of South African sides being in the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup. What's it like as a player? Like, do you get excited for it? Is it because you're in the URC, you're kind of used to going back and forth, or you just like, oh, we've got this other competition, it's 10-hour flight or whatever, could do without it. How do you feel about it? And how do you feel about it potentially going away when you go back to the Bulls?
Yeah, look, I'll be, to be honest with you, I'll be very bummed if it does go away. I think it's great. It's a great competition. The times we've played Champions Cup, Challenge Cup, I've really enjoyed it, and it's a really good competition because it's not that long, and you get to test yourself against the best in the world. Some of my best rugby experiences were actually here in France. We came to play Toulouse in the Champions Cup quarterfinal, I think, and we played Bordeaux in a quarterfinal as well. Lost both, but the experience of it was just unbelievable. So look, I'll be personally, I'll be very bummed. But then on the other side, I do understand, because if you look at guys like, you take the internationals in South Africa, the Siya Kolisis, the Yemen Etzebeth, those sort of guys, they've got international rugby as well. And unfortunately, I just think the squad depth in South Africa is not as good as Leinster would be, or Bordeaux would be, or Toulouse would be. I think I think the South African teams now are sort of building towards that sort of thing. But yeah, look, it's a tough one. I mean, I wouldn't want to be sitting in those board meetings, but as a player that's played in both those competitions, I would love for South African teams to stay in them.
How much does it? I mean, like, we're not rugby players by any stretch. How much? So, like, this is genuinely an alien thing for us. How much does it take it out of you, the actual travel? Like, I mean, I struggle on a Monday morning if we've been over in France for the weekend. I put that down to the 1 hour flight or whatever it is. But like, do you take like a day or two to kind of feel like you're ready to be at full speed in a way, or is it just you're kind of a bit tired and you feel a bit funny and then you're ready to go?
Look, you're speaking to the wrong person at the moment, because in Pro D2 you bus everywhere you go. So.
Oh yeah.
No, look, it's I think for the South African boys, because in Super Rugby it was exactly the same thing. In Super Rugby it was actually worse because of obviously the time difference and things that you needed to adjust to and that sort of thing. So No, to be honest with you, there'll probably be 2, 3 weekends in a calendar year if you find yourself in that situation where it does get tough, where you have to fly to France to play a game, fly back home, play at home, and then the following week go play a playoff game in Ireland or whatever the case may be. So you do get scenarios where, yes, it'll definitely be tougher on the boys. I think actually the Bulls did it a couple of years ago, where they did playoff games like that on the run. So in that sense, it can be tough. Sometimes you're away from home for 3 to 4 weeks. Obviously, guys with families, young kids, and that sort of thing. Mentally, it can be a little bit tough. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's not that wouldn't be the reason why I would want to stop playing in the Champions Cup and the Challenge Cup. So yeah.
Your Challenge Cup win, would that have been your last game for the Sharks or very close to it?
It wasn't my last game for the Sharks, but I think I played because in the Challenge Cup I actually tore my groin in the warm up, and I didn't say anything because I just wanted to play it. So I ended up playing with a flippin' running crippled. And then we came back to South Africa and continued with the URC. And I think I played one more game. I was out for 2, 3 weeks and then played one more game. And that was my last game for the Sharks. Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't realised the quite the lengths you'd gone to get that winner's medal.
Yeah. No, it was such a nice opportunity, and we were playing at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and we were on a really, really good run a couple of games before that. So silly now to think of it, because if something happened and I needed to play longer than I should have, then probably would have been a problem for the team. But yeah, we got away with it.
You got that medal, got the glory for
Exactly.
forever. So that's that's the lasting thing.
Yeah.
Will you see? I guess maybe not on the Saturday, but will you be able to see? We're obviously in Challenge and Champions Cup final week. Will you be able to see either the French teams, Montpellier or Bordeaux? Have you seen much of how those guys have gone in the tournaments today?
Not really, to be honest with you. I've watched games here and there, but I haven't really been invested the last couple of weeks. I've been watching the Bulls quite a bit to sort of see if I can pick up what they're trying to do, with the attack and how they're trying to play the game and things like that. But yeah, to be honest, I haven't really watched a lot of it.
Because I think the Bulls have their own, is it quarter final coming up against Munster?
Against Munster this weekend, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Will that be at home? Have you ever? So whenever we talk about Munster, we once went to Thomond Park. Have you ever played there?
I have, yeah.
What a place!
Yeah, unreal experience. Yeah, it's a great atmosphere to play in. I honestly, it's one of my favorite grounds. Just the way their stands are built and how close it is to the field and the noises that come from there and that sort of. It's a great experience. Yeah.
Nice. We'll have to keep an eye out. Just to round off there, just reflecting on, it's been two years for you in France. Firstly, along those lines, what's been your favourite away? Well, maybe not journey, but destination. Some of the millions of different grounds there are in the French second tier. Any that stick out in the memory?
I must say, playing at home here in Brive is always special. I think we've got the highest attendance here as well in the Pro D2. So again, it's one of those very similar to Thomond Park. Like it's a great place to play in, and the fans there, the spectators, the supporters, they live and breathe for this club. I'll never forget some of the images that I saw after that semi-final last year. People crying in the stands and. I think it really cut deep then when you see what it meant to those people and what it means to these people. You walk past them in town, and when you've won, they thank you for it and that sort of thing. So It's really it's a great place. It's a great atmosphere, and I mean, one of my mates, Noche, who plays for Montauban, he came at the start of the season and watched our opening game against Van as well, and I mean, even he said the atmosphere here is just it's crazy, and it's from the minute you get off the bus, and it's a true French experience that you're getting. So it's this is definitely my favorite place here.
Fantastic. Rob, do you remember our bus experience at Brive? It wasn't quite
Yeah,
as
yeah. We tried
focused.
to catch it, and I think we missed it. And we got the Aurillac team kind of coming off, and they didn't have, even though that's pretty close. There was like a couple of people like clapping them, and then
Yeah, yeah,
we saw on like social media like the next home game, it was the Bree fans absolutely kicking off. We were like, right, well, we definitely we
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
didn't get that right.
yeah, yeah. No, it's honestly and I mean last year that again going back to that semi-final, we usually stop pretty close to the gate where the boys get off, and then obviously the people stand and clap you into the change room. For that Montauban game, I think we walked about 100 meters down in the street. That's how far down the people were standing and cheering the boys on. So it was honestly it was an incredible experience. And again, it just shows the amount of love these people in this town have for this club. It's amazing.
And then finally, we always love to ask guests any from their time, their experiences, any recommendations for any listeners or viewers who want to go to Brive, whether it be sightseeing, eating, drinking, anywhere that
Cafes,
you've
bars, whatever.
the
Where do you
works.
like to hang out? Where can you
Yeah.
find Curwin Bosch on your average day in Brive?
Well, it wouldn't be on your average day. I would have a problem if it was, but we've got a pub in city centre, the Watson, and I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it.
You've been, haven't you, Rich?
I have, yeah, it's
Yeah,
lively.
yeah, it's you'll find us if you're looking for the boys on a night out or after the game. You'll usually find the boys there. So I definitely recommend that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, Kerwin, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. But congratulations on all your time in France with the Bulls, and of course the wedding on the horizon. It sounds like it's been a busy time to put it mildly. But yeah, very best of luck to yourself and the rest of the Brive guys for this weekend. We'll certainly be watching. And yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming on Rosbiff Rugby.
Thanks so much, guys, and thank you to you guys. It's I've been obviously following your guys' page and the podcast for a while now, and just love the work that you guys are doing. So yeah, keep up with
Oh,
that, and
thank you, mate.
thank you for having me, and yeah, hopefully we'll chat soon again.
Absolutely.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you, Kerwin. Cheers for your time.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Cohen Bosch, big thank you. Rob, reminder of to anyone who's dialing in for the bonus episode, know what's the score in French rugby this weekend. But for any new listeners, where can what's happening over the next few
Well, you
days?
can
A
find
reminder.
us on at Rosbys Rugby on all social media accounts. Also, that includes YouTube. There will be more kind of need to know type stuff, teeing up who needs what and where teams are at coming into these Pro De playoffs. There will also be some hopefully nice and neat visuals to kind of summarise where teams are at. Those will be on at Rosbys Rugby on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, maybe TikTok, who knows. But there will be a kind of preview video of the playoffs on YouTube as well coming up and if you're watching this on YouTube, then it'll be on this page. But the games, most importantly, you can watch live and for free if you're in the UK and Ireland, thanks to our friends over at FR-UK on YouTube, FR-UK Rugby. They are, and if you're not a subscriber and you listen to this, then I'll buy you a beer because I feel like that can't be many people that are listening to this that also aren't aware of FR-UK and how good being able to watch those games live and free are. That's gonna be a hell of a game.
Yeah,
Provence, Brive, two really
yeah.
similar sides, I think.
Yeah, it's a pretty large Venn diagram there, I would imagine. Yeah, it should be amazing. Can't wait to get stuck into it over for any UK listeners over the bank holiday as well. So you get an extra day to marvel in it all. Rob, I think fair to say, well, firstly, another massive thanks to Kerwin for his time. I think one of our favourite guests, brilliant interviewer. Slightly shambolic from us on the technical and logistics front recording around that, but there we go. We can't have it all. Enjoy the Champions Challenge Cups. Enjoy the Pro de Barrage. It's one of the best weekends of the French rugby season. From us, au revoir.
Au revoir.